Long before Homestead Rescue showed up on TV, Marty Rainey was already building a life most people wouldn't dare imagine. Logging on floating camps, living among bears, and raising a family deep in Alaska's unforgiving wilderness. But the rugged confidence you see on screen only scratches the surface. Behind it is a story far more intense, dramatic, and complicated than the show ever lets on. And in recent years, a mix of surprising controversies and personal setbacks has left many people wondering one thing: what really happened to Marty Rainey? Marty Rainey's story starts back on July 28, 1956 in North Bend, Washington, where he was practically born into nature. Even as a kid, city life never appealed to him. His childhood home sat at the end of Mount Si Road with the nearest neighbor a mile away. And for Marty, that was perfect. Growing up at the base of Mount Tenerife, he spent his days climbing, scrambling, and exploring with zero technical training, just a whole lot of curiosity and energy. By the age of 12 or 13, he was hiking 35 miles through the Cascades like it was no big deal. That pure love for the outdoors only grew stronger. So strong that at 16, he left school, picked up work as a logger, and still found himself craving even more wilderness. By 18, he made the move that would define his entire life. He headed for Alaska. His very first view of Alaska came from the cockpit of 737, a moment he never forgot. A friend who worked for the airline pulled him up front as they lifted off, giving him a sky-high view of the rugged land he would someday call home. For Marty, it felt like looking down from the heavens at the place he was meant to be. When he finally arrived, his first Alaskan home wasn't even on land. It was a floating logging camp near Prince of Wales Island, totally off-grid, literally bobbing on the water. Logging back then was tough, beautiful work. And Marty arrived just in time to experience the last era of that lifestyle. The trees were enormous. They'd cut them into 40-foot sections, lash them together into massive rafts, and build entire living spaces right on top. Houses, fourplexes, trailers. Everything sat on these floating platforms that cruise ships towed from one isolated bay to the next. After marrying his girlfriend Molly Roll, Marty and Molly felt an irresistible pull to push even farther into the wilderness, farther from towns, traffic, and just about every comfort most people take for granted. They eventually built their first home near the shores of Chilkoot Lake, roughly 30 miles north of Honus. It was a breathtaking spot, but they didn't choose it for the postcard views alone. The streams nearby were teeming with spawning salmon, practically offering a built-in food supply. But of course, salmon attract bears, and plenty of them. Marty later described those early days as downright chaotic, with massive brown bears roaming around like they owned the place, all of them fighting for the same shimmering coho salmon in the watershed. Together, Marty and Molly pushed through years of wilderness hardship, moving from one remote corner of Alaska to another before finally settling outside Honus, still very much in bear country. Their life together became as rugged and raw as the land around them. And before long, they welcomed 4 children. But those early years weren't easy. Marty worked endlessly just to keep food on the table for Molly and their newborn daughter, Melanie. And then came a terrifying moment. Molly went into labor out on the homestead, and a dangerous complication forced them onto an emergency bush plane bound for Whitehorse in the Yukon Territory. That's where Melanie was safely delivered. Marty would later talk about those days with total honesty, calling them true hardscrabble times. After long, back-breaking hours of logging, he'd come home exhausted, hungry, and thinner by the week, sometimes hoping he could catch a single salmon along the edge of Chilkoot Lake, just enough to feed himself and Molly for the night. Hard as it was, he often said those struggles shaped him in ways nothing else ever could. The Raineys welcomed their third child, Misty, in 1979, the same year they packed up and moved to the Wasilla area. This new location, close to the shadow of Denali National Park, opened a door Marty had been inching toward for years. It was here that he stepped into the world of mountain expeditions. His first climb up Denali came in 1986, and it was an experience that stayed etched in his memory forever. Pushing toward the final 20 feet of the summit, he felt tears streaming down his face. Tears that instantly froze in the brutal cold. Standing at the very top of North America filled him with awe. There was no urge to cheer or plant a flag. Instead, he felt small, humbled, and overshadowed by 360 degrees of towering ridges and jagged. Still, Marty's fame truly skyrocketed after Ultimate Survival Alaska ended. His next chapter arrived in 2016 when he became the beating heart of Homestead Rescue. The Discovery Channel approached Marty with a concept they described as a return to their early, authentic boots-on-the-ground style. What grabbed Marty was the mission: real people, real problems, real solutions. No fake drama, just helping struggling homesteaders survive. After a month of mulling it over, his children, Misty and Matt, joined the effort, transforming the series into a full family operation. But Marty had one big condition: authenticity. He wasn't interested in scripts or stage conflicts. Each episode introduces someone trying to live off the land, but falling short in dangerous ways. Food shortages, no clean water, wildlife threats, failing structures. The Raineys don't swoop in as celebrities. They arrive as hands-on problem solvers. Each family member brings a specialty. Marty is the master of the wild. Misty is the sustainability expert. Matt is the craftsman, a builder capable of turning raw materials into sturdy structures. Together, they become a lifeline, stepping in when people are on the brink. Homestead Rescue has earned praise for its emphasis on self-sufficiency, especially at a time when many viewers are thinking about living closer to the land. But like most reality shows, it hasn't escaped criticism. Some viewers argue that a few scenes feel overly dramatic or staged for television. In 2018, a dramatic incident involving a drone operator thrust Marty into the spotlight for an entirely different reason. Drone pilot Justin Pursley had been flying his brand new drone when Marty, convinced he was being filmed without permission, confronted him. The situation escalated quickly. Marty ended up damaging the drone. Surprisingly, the confrontation was resolved peacefully. The two men met in a grocery store parking lot where Marty apologized and paid the full cost in cash. Then in 2020, Marty faced another wave of public backlash for a resurfaced song from his 1997 album titled Adam and Steve, drawing widespread criticism for its homophobic lyrics. Production companies and Discovery distanced themselves from the song, stressing it didn't reflect their values. But despite the controversy, Homestead Rescue kept airing without delays. Then came a disaster no one could have predicted. In 2021, Marty and Molly's cabin was consumed by a sudden and devastating fire. After years of effort, everything was gone in moments. Winter was closing in, and they faced a full rebuild while racing against freezing temperatures. Discovery leaned heavily on the fire to promote the new season, which led some viewers to question whether it was being exaggerated. But Marty posted a video in real time calling for help as flames spread. Former participants had mixed experiences. Kim and Josh Zabek claimed the show distorted their reality with manufactured scenes. Others, like the Kondash family, had no complaints, crediting the show for helping turn their struggling mill business around. These stories paint a complex picture, a show blending real hardship with television storytelling, and a family navigating both natural disasters and public scrutiny.